whatever is out there, it follows rules. Rule 1, don't stare into the trees too long. Rule 2, don't answer if it speaks your name. And Rule 3, if it learns your voice, it doesn't need the door open to get inside. I didn't believe in monsters, not the old ones, not the ones with names and rules, not werewolves, not ghosts, not vampires. I'm not saying I believed the world was safe. I just believed the things that were dangerous had explanations. Bears, cougars, meth heads, hypothermia, things you can predict. That belief is the only reason I made it as far as I did. Because if I'd believed in monsters, real ones, I would have never gone looking for it. It started with a call from my brother. His name was Evan. We hadn't talked much in the last year. Not because we hated each other, just because life does what it does. He had moved to northern Maine for a forestry job. I stayed behind doing weekend hikes, posting photos, pretending I wasn't lonely. When Evan called, his voice was tight, like he'd been holding his breath for too long. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I answered. "Everything all right?" There was a pause. Then he said, "I found something in the woods." I laughed a little because Evan always had this habit of sounding dramatic over nothing, like the time he thought a raccoon was stalking him. "What did you find?" I asked. "Bigfoot." His reply came fast. "No. Just no. Not joking. Not playing along." Then he said, "It's not an animal. Not a person. And it doesn't act right." I didn't know what to say to that, so I went with something safe. "What do you mean? It doesn't act right?" Evan swallowed hard. I could hear it. "It watches," he said, "like it's waiting for you to stop looking." That was the moment I felt it. That small shift in my stomach, like the world leaned slightly out of balance. He continued, "I saw it 2 nights ago. I thought it was a moose standing wrong in the tree line. Then it moved." "Okay," I said, forcing calm. "What moved?" "The whole thing," he whispered, like its bones weren't in the right places, like it had too many joints. My eyes drifted to the window beside my couch. It was dark outside. Quiet. Evan said, "I tried to tell myself it was sick, injured, but then it did something I can't explain. I waited. It copied me. My mouth went dry. Copied you." I raised my flashlight, he said, and it raised something too. Not a hand exactly, but it lifted part of itself like it understood what a hand was supposed to be. I sat forward. Evan whispered, "It's learning." Then his voice dropped even lower, and I think it followed me back. That night, Evan sent me pictures. Most were useless. Black shapes, tree trunks, fog. One looked like a smear across the lens, but one photo made my chest tighten. It showed a tree line at the edge of his property. His porch light cast a thin yellow line across the snow, and at the very edge of that light, just barely visible, something stood between the trees. Too tall, too thin. It wasn't the shape that terrified me. It was the posture. It looked like it was trying to stand like a person, and failing, like it had studied us from far away and assembled itself wrong. I zoomed in until the pixels blurred. I swear to God, I saw the hint of a face, not features, not eyes, just a flatness, as if someone had draped skin over something that wasn't meant to be alive. The next morning, I drove 6 hours to Evan's place. He didn't ask me to. He didn't even say, "Please come." But the fear in his voice did. Evan lived in a small cabin surrounded by forest so thick it looked painted on. The kind of place where sound doesn't travel right and the wind feels like it has intention. When I pulled into his driveway, I found him already outside, pacing. He looked worse than I expected, dark circles under his eyes, hands shaking, jacket half zipped like he'd been rushing. He hugged me, but it felt more like he was checking I was real. "You saw it, right?" he said quickly. I nodded. "The photo?" "Yeah." Evan grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the porch. "Don't look into the trees," he said. Not for long. That was a strange thing to say, but he meant it, like it was a rule. Inside, the cabin smelled like cold coffee and sweat. Evan had taped blankets over the windows. I stared. "What is this?" "It doesn't like light," he said. "Or maybe it does. I don't know. But it stands farther away when I keep things bright." "You're telling me you think there's a creature living in the woods," I said, trying to keep my voice normal. "And your plan is mood lighting?" Evan didn't smile. He crouched by the door and pointed to the wood near the bottom. "Look." There were scratches, not like an animal clawing. These were long, straight grooves, like someone had dragged the same blade over the wood again and again. Then, Evan pointed lower, in the snow outside, right at the doorstep. There were footprints, but not animal prints, not human either. They looked like someone wearing shoes who had never seen shoes before. Warped impressions, uneven pressure, too long. I crouched, cold rushing up my knees. "Evan," I said slowly. "How close?" he asked. I looked at the marks again. "The prints start right here." Evan swallowed. "It came to the door last night." That evening, Evan insisted we didn't leave the cabin. I tried to argue. I tried logic. "What if it's a person messing with you?" I said. "Some hunter, some neighbor." Evan's eyes snapped to mine. "It doesn't move like a person," he said, "and people don't make noises like that." I didn't like the way he said noises. He had a wood stove going and every light in the cabin turned on. Even the bathroom light, even the closet. Night came early out there. The sky didn't fade, it just shut off. We sat at the table eating canned soup, trying not to listen to the forest. At 9:47 p.m., Evan's dog started growling. It was a big shepherd mix named Duke, the kind of dog that barked at bears and didn't back down. But Duke wasn't barking. He was low, trembling, hackles raised, staring at the blanketed window like he could see through it. Evan whispered, "Don't." I frowned. "Don't what?" "Don't pull the blanket away." I hadn't even moved yet, but my hand was halfway up. We stared at the window. The cabin was quiet except for the soft crackle of the stove. Then, outside, something made a sound. It wasn't an owl. It wasn't a wolf. It wasn't anything I'd ever heard in my life. It sounded like a voice trying to become a voice, like lungs learning how to push air through a throat. A wet, rhythmic clicking, followed by this thin, breathy noise. Almost like a whisper, but broken. Wrong. Evan's face drained of color. "It's here," he mouthed. Duke whined. Then the thing outside did something that made my stomach drop straight through the floor. It spoke. Not clearly. Not yet. but it said a word, a single word, a name, my name, Caleb. It dragged the syllables out like it was tasting them. Caleb. My body went cold. I looked at Evan so hard, my eyes hurt. How does it know my name? I whispered. Evan's lips trembled. I didn't tell it, he said. I swear I didn't. The whisper came again, closer. Caleb. Then, a soft knock, not a bang, not a slam, a polite little knock, 3 taps, like someone standing at your door with manners. Evan began to shake. Duke backed away, tail tucked under his belly. The knock came again, then the voice. Open. The word came out stretched and wet. Ooh, pen. I swallowed hard and tried to breathe through my nose so I wouldn't make noise. Evan whispered, "Don't answer it." I didn't. Neither did he. For a long time, nothing happened. Just the lights humming and the stove crackling. Then, the voice changed. It got more confident, less broken, like it had practiced. "Caleb," it said again. This time it sounded closer to human. Too close. I stared at the door, barely blinking. Then it said something that made my skin crawl in a way I didn't know it could. It said, "It's cold out here." That's what people say. That's what we say. That meant it wasn't just copying sounds anymore. It was choosing them. At 10:13 p.m., Duke started barking, loud, desperate. He charged the door, and before either of us could grab him, the door handle turned, slowly, like someone was testing it. The lock held, but the sound of that handle moving was so normal, it was worse than anything else. Evan rushed forward, grabbed Duke's collar, pulled him back. "Go to the bedroom," he hissed at me. "What?" I said. "Now." I ran down the hallway and slammed the bedroom door. Evan followed seconds later, breathless, holding Duke like a child. We stood in the darkness of the room, only the faint glow from the hallway light spilling under the door. The knocking stopped. For a moment, I thought it left. Then, the voice came again, but it wasn't at the front door anymore. It was near the bedroom window, right outside, close enough that the glass vibrated. "Caleb," it whispered. This time, it sounded like my own voice. Perfect, like someone had recorded me and played it back. It repeated again. "Caleb." My throat tightened so hard I couldn't swallow. Evan's eyes were wide with terror. Then the voice. My voice said, "Let me in." And Duke went silent. Completely. No barking, no whining. Just stiff, frozen stillness. I looked down at him. His eyes were locked on the window. His ears flat. His body trembling, like something outside had turned him into a statue. Evan pulled a hunting rifle from under his bed. He handed it to me. "Do you know how to use that?" he whispered. I nodded, even though I didn't. The voice outside said, softly, "I can come in anyway." Then, the tapping began. Not on the glass, on the wall, like fingers inside the walls. Scratching, feeling, testing. Evan put his hand over his mouth to stop himself from making a sound. The tapping moved along the wall. It traveled, slow, patient. Then it stopped directly behind the bedroom closet. We stared at the closet door, breathing shallow, waiting for something to burst through. Instead, the closet door creaked open. 1 inch, 2, 3. Not from wind, not from settling wood. It opened with intention, and something inside the closet shifted. I raised the rifle, hands shaking so bad I thought I'd drop it. Evan whispered, "Caleb, don't." The closet door paused halfway open. Then a voice came out of the closet. Not mine, not Evan's. A third voice. A voice that sounded like a dozen throats layered together. It said, "Thank you." The closet door swung wide. There was nothing inside, just hanging coats, empty darkness. But the air spilled out of it like a freezer door left open. A smell came with it too. Rot, wet dirt, old meat, and something else. Like when you open a box that hasn't been opened in years, and everything inside has been decaying in secret. Then, a shape moved. Not in the closet. In the corner of the room, behind Evan. Something tall. Something wrong. Evan didn't see it. He was staring at the closet. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The thing leaned forward and whispered into Evan's ear, in my voice. "Got you," Evan screamed. I fired the rifle. The shot cracked through the room like lightning. The recoil slammed my shoulder. The closet exploded with torn fabric and splinters. Evan fell to the floor, clutching his head. Duke bolted into the hallway, barking like madness. And the thing, it moved, not away, not toward us, just sideways. Like it didn't understand, forward. Like it moved by sliding its body through angles that shouldn't exist. And then it was gone. Gone like it had never been there at all. But the smell stayed. We didn't sleep. We sat in the kitchen until the sun came up, holding mugs we didn't drink from. Evan's hands wouldn't stop shaking. He kept whispering, "It got inside. It got inside." I wanted to argue, to say no, we survived. It didn't get anything. But I knew what he meant. It didn't have to kill you to win. It just had to get close enough to learn you. When daylight finally hit the trees, Evan said, "We need to leave. Right now." I nodded. We packed in silence. But as I walked past the window, I caught myself staring into the forest. Something about the tree line felt different, like the woods were holding their breath. Evan grabbed my shoulder. "Don't look," he warned. Too late. I had already seen it. Between two pines, deep in shadow, a shape, tall, still, watching, and it raised its arm, its wrong, jointed arm, and waved, just like I had waved at Evan yesterday when I arrived. I stumbled backward. Evan didn't ask what I saw. He already knew. We drove for hours, no radio, no talking, just tires on road, and that constant feeling of being watched even when the trees thinned. At a gas station 3 towns away, Evan finally spoke. "I think it's not hunting," he said. "I think it's collecting." "Collecting what?" I asked, voice cracking. Evan stared at the steering wheel like it might answer for him. "People," he whispered. "Pieces of people." I forced a laugh, weak and ugly. "That's insane." Evan looked at me slowly. "No," he said. "What's insane is that it learned your name in one night." My stomach dropped again. I went still, because he was right. I hadn't even introduced myself outside. I barely spoke, and yet it said my name like it had known me forever. I thought about the voice it used. My voice, Evan's voice, the other voice in the closet, like it could pull them out of the air, out of the walls, out of your breath. I swallowed hard. How do we stop it? I asked. Evan's eyes met mine, glossy with exhaustion. I don't think we can, he said. I think we just keep moving. I stayed with Evan for 3 days at a motel near the highway. He slept in bursts, woke up screaming, jumped at every creak in the building. On the 4th night, I went to the ice machine alone. The hallway was empty, bright, normal. The kind of hallway you'd see in any cheap motel in any town. I filled the bucket, listening to the ice crackle. Then I heard something behind me, a familiar voice, a voice that made my blood turn to slush. Caleb. I turned slowly. The hallway was still empty. I stared down the long carpeted stretch toward the stairs. No one. But the voice came again, softer, more playful. Caleb. Then the lights above me flickered once, and for just a fraction of a second, in the reflection of the dark window beside the ice machine, I saw it, standing behind me, too tall to be human, too still to be alive. Its face smooth and wrong, like a mask pulled too tight. And its mouth was open in a grin that didn't belong on any living thing. The lights steadied. The reflection showed only me. I dropped the bucket. Ice scattered across the floor. I ran back to the room, burst inside. Evan sat up immediately, eyes wide. "What?" he demanded. "What happened?" I tried to speak. My throat didn't work. I just shook my head and locked every lock twice. Evan watched me. Then he whispered, like he already knew the answer. "It followed us, didn't it?" I didn't respond, because I couldn't admit it. If I said it out loud, it would be real. That was 2 weeks ago. Evan is gone now. Police say he walked out of the motel at 2:19 a.m. and never came back. No wallet, no keys, no coat. The highway cameras didn't catch him. No footprints in the snow. Just gone. They questioned me for hours. Asked if we had argued. If he was on drugs. If he was suicidal. I told them the truth, as much of it as I could. They looked at me like I was insane. But here's why I'm recording this. It wasn't the police report that broke me. It wasn't Evan disappearing. It wasn't even the fact that something unknown and impossible is out there. It was last night, when I was trying to sleep in my own apartment, back home, safe. I was lying in bed staring at my ceiling, listening to the heater click. And just as I started to drift, I heard 3 soft taps on my bedroom door. Not banging, not slamming. Polite, patient. 3 taps. And from the other side of the door, a voice whispered, perfectly, human, warm, my brother's voice. "Hey," it said softly, "open up." And then, in a second voice layered underneath, one that sounded like wet leaves and broken lungs, it added, "It's cold out here. If you're listening to this, and you're alone, and you hear something speak your name from somewhere it shouldn't be, don't answer it. Because once it learns your voice, it doesn't stop practicing. And one night, it will sound exactly like someone you love, and you'll open the door